And good morning, guys. It is the 17th of January 2020. And yes, we are live as we speak. And as we speak, I am linking this onto Twitter and to Facebook right now, so you guys can basically check this out if you want. And let me see if I can get to live stream stuff here on events. So let's do that. Okay, and right now I just put it onto Twitter, and Twitter right now is one of the recent tweets they just put up about 11 seconds ago is the sing-along version of Frozen 2 is now out in theaters. So, yeah. And what's this? So, there we go. Trying to make sure everything is adjusted here for me. Hold on. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I had to adjust some things there. But yeah, welcome again, like I said, to the live stream as I am adjusting stuff here. StreamYard, obviously, and I don't know how else you could do live streams with YouTube anymore. Is probably the best option you got, unless having Google Chrome allows you to do that now too. But I seriously doubt that. Okay. But yeah, it's 8:05 in the morning. I don't have to leave the house for another few hours, of course, because I started around 11:45 today, and I'm off at 4:15. Yeah, go figure, right? I mean, yesterday I started at 12:15. I was off at 4:30. So, go figure on that one. So, anyway, though, guys, hopefully you can hear me, and we are up and going here. So, anyway, yeah, topics on my mind. You will also be able to hear this later on because I will try to MP3 it later on to the YT to MP3 thing options that we have on the internet, the YT to MP3, and then you'll be able to listen to it through audio podcast form. So hopefully you guys will take a chance with that and enjoy it as we speak. Well, not as we speak, because as we speak is right now. So, but basically, enjoy it later on when you get the opportunity. But anyway, let's talk about a few subjects here, shall we? Now, I am going to say this. I am very limited, depending on where this gets broadcasted at. Here on StreamYard, they start you out on the basic free package at 20 hours, and the higher you go up in the package, upgrade wise, the more options you get. So, got to be careful with this and how you do it. I only did about 23 minutes on the other one, so that's not much of a big deal. But it does add up. Podbean, it gives you 5 hours, but then as time goes on, it kind of decreases, with it, especially the length of your podcast. Anchor.fm, I think, has got limitations, but they, hour-wise, it's kind of like, it's there to enjoy or something. So, but I think they do have options as well to go further. Anyway, though, okay, like I was saying, let's talk about, let's talk about a few topics here. This is also part of the audio podcast called UnCut, Unscripted, and On the Fly, or Unscripted, Uncut, and On the Fly. So, hopefully you guys will enjoy that. And hold on for a sec. To those listening on the audio, that might sound like, why did he go quiet? I'm just typing in stuff here for a second here. But anyway, again, let's get into some topics here. Let's talk about a variety of topics, and go from there, if you will. Just adjust my seat here. Got to get myself a new chair eventually. As you can see, it kind of go up and down. But like I said, I got to get myself a new chair eventually. But let's talk about some subjects here, shall we? First of all, first topic on the mind, is the fact that this is the weekend of the NFL Conference Championships. In other words, the AFC Conference Championship and the NFC Conference Championship. And I said this before when I did a video over this past weekend. Actually, it was last Sunday. And that video basically talked about how more right, and I say this with all due respect, but how more right, how more legit, how more, I guess you could say, realistic and earned these conference championship matches were, because of the fact that when you look at them, you have Tennessee at Kansas City and Green Bay at San Francisco. Now, looking back on previous years, some people would say, yeah, some of these teams would have gotten here, but would have gotten to the playoffs, I should say, but they wouldn't have gotten any further. They wouldn't have gotten to this point. Well, not only did they get to this point, ladies and gentlemen, but they are now just one game away from the Super Bowl occurring. And as you can see in the back of me here, of course, I would like the 49ers to win. As a matter of fact, to be honest, my ideal Super Bowl matchup would be the Niners and the Chiefs, seeing as though from 1994 to 2000, I lived in Kansas. I lived for about 6 years with my dad, going on 6 years at that time, up from, I think it was June 1994 to May 2000. And then I lived on my own from May 2000 to November 2007 before moving back out here. So I had time to myself. Honestly, I had some time to myself, and a lot of people, uh, you know, they look at me and they sometimes wonder, why did I, give that all up, if you will. But anyway, long story short, I kind of have a personal investment in seeing both those teams go against each other, and it wouldn't be the first time that two teams that I'm a fan of when it go from both regions went against each other in a world championship. The other time was several years ago with the Kansas City Royals and the San Francisco Giants. So again, it wouldn't be the first time this would happen. But anyway, let's again, getting back on topic, I should say. It's these games feel, in my opinion, more legit, more real, more like they were actually earned by the teams being in them. And then on top of that, you have some interesting scenarios that can come out of this. In other words, some interesting Super Bowl matchups that I think anybody will watch. It doesn't matter probably if their team doesn't get in. Again, I hope the Niners and the Chiefs win. Again, but that's up to what happens this Sunday. It's in the hands of God Almighty, in my opinion, exactly as to who's going to head to Miami. But if I was but no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that saying. If I was a betting man, I'm not going to do that. But if I was to look at the scenarios that we have, like I said, and it's early still. It's about 8:12, 8:14, I should say. But if I was to look at the scenarios, guys, the vast amount of scenarios that can come out of the Super Bowl, come out of this for the Super Bowl, I should say, it's a win-win no matter what you look at. I mean, you have the possibility of San Francisco, Kansas City. People would love that. You have the possibility of Green Bay in Tennessee. People would love that. You have the possibility of San Francisco, Tennessee. You have the possibility of a Super Bowl I matchup, rematch 50 years in the making between the Chiefs and the Packers. And honestly, that's one thing I guarantee you, if that occurs, if that's the Super Bowl we get, you can already pretty much see a lot of conspiracy theorists, as far as the NFL is concerned, coming out and saying, oh, well, this was planned from the get-go. This was a lockdown from the get-go. This, they just want to do the rematch of Super Bowl I because it's the best way to end the 100th season of the NFL and da-da-da. And that might be true. That might be true because, again, it's been 100 seasons since the NFL began, and basically the Super Bowl would basically be about 54 years in the making. For the Super Bowl, the rematch would be over 50 years in the making. But the question would be exactly what direction would they go in with it? See, that's the question anybody would have. Is what direction would they go with it? So, again, that's a question people need to wonder. And my thing hit the mic there. I do apologize. So yeah, again, you got some interesting scenarios. Excuse me. We do know that the players of the teams that win, even though they're voted to the Pro Bowl, will not be in the Pro Bowl. Players that are kind of like voted in but are like on the reserve. Um, basically, like I said, basically they are how do you put this? They are the ones that will get the call. In other words, if a team, like I said, if the Niners go in, any of their Pro Bowlers get replaced by another team's Pro Bowlers that, like I said, are on reserve just in case, on standby just in case that team goes. So anyway, though, getting back on topic here for a second. Getting back on topic, but getting back to, like I said, the interesting matchups here. A lot. I'll tell you this. I'll be honest. If you're a conspiracy theorist of the NFL, then you know that whoever wins the first conference championship game played that day on Sunday, that's pretty much going to tell you the direction they may go in. You know what I'm saying? That may tell you what direction they are going in. Because, you wouldn't be able to, because honestly, it's like, do you know what direction they're going in, or do you not know what direction they're going in? You see, that's the big question. And again, you have to wonder, if the first conference championship game, which is the AFC one, is going to set the tone of, okay, now we know where they're going with this, who they are going to put in. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's really intriguing. But again, the matchups are really intriguing because you look at these four teams. You look at Tennessee, you look at Kansas City, you look at Green Bay, you look at San Francisco, and these are teams that people would say like, oh yeah, they they're basically it's like, oh yeah, those teams could have made the playoffs, but they wouldn't have gotten this far. Now here you are. And what's interesting about this is these are teams that are more West and Midwest acknowledged. Tennessee might be the closest to an East team, and that's about it. But all the other teams are more like Midwest, West region, and the winners get to meet each other in Miami. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting scenario to see exactly where we go from here, especially starting Sunday, because again, if you're a conspiracy theorist of the NFL, then you kind of have an idea, or you kind of have it in your mind that the winner of the AFC Championship is going to set the tone for who goes and plays them in the Super Bowl. All right, so next up, so we're done with that subject. Next up, let's talk about something that's been on my mind a lot, and I've talked about this a variety of times, folks, and that is Hallmark. Now, Hallmark recently kind of went back to its regular schedule. And what I mean by its regular schedule is a lot of the shows that people would tune into Hallmark to watch for nostalgic reasons are back on the air. Golden Girls, Frasier, Cheers, you name it. And some of the original programming they have, like the Home and Family one, that talk show, which is, I guess, their answer to, like, say, Good Morning America or something, or to the Today Show. And sorry about whatever noise that was in the background that you just heard. But anyway, Hallmark is pretty much back on track, if you will. But, however, folks, we do still have to address something, because even as we head into February, which is Valentine's Day month, we do have to address this. Doing certain, and I said this before, and I've mentioned this before, I should say, that during certain times of the year, Hallmark likes to go on this mini marathon, or this huge month-long, week-long marathon, if you will. Showcasing original Hallmark films that are either reruns from previous years or new ones debuting that year, or in this case, this year. And here's the thing. Hallmark, got to be honest, and I say this with all due respect, Hallmark has the potential to be a great channel. I know of a lot of people that I'm friends with, I used to go to school with them, that love Hallmark. They absolutely love it. I know that members of my family love Hallmark. But here's the thing. I think all of them have to admit this. And what they have to admit is that as much as they love Hallmark, that basically, the movies you get, whether they're new for that year and for that Pacific part of the season, or Pacific season of that year, whether they're new for that year, and like I said, especially if they're new for that particular season of that year, or the reruns from previous years, you have to admit that basically what you're getting with a lot of these stories is the same story time after time after time. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, I've talked about this before. What Hallmark does is they might change the faces when it comes to the actors and the actresses. They might change the names of the characters they will portray. They may change the names of the town or the locations they're going to be at. And more specifically, they may change the title of the movie. But when you get down to it and you're watching that movie, you're going to notice, especially if you're watching that movie after you've just watched another one, you're going to notice that there is a similar pattern, or there's a similarity. And that similarity, if not identifiable similarity and familiarity, is the fact that the new movie you're watching feels like the movie you just watched before it, or even the day before. Because you could sit back, watch this new movie, think you're going to have a good time watching it, and you might, but after it's all said and done, you're going to sit back, talk about it maybe with family or friends, and then suddenly it's going to dawn on you, you know what? Or should I say, it's suddenly going to dawn on you during that conversation that you're going to realize, and you'll acknowledge this to that person, you know what? That movie felt very familiar, felt very similar to the last one I just watched the day before, or just before this. You're going to start feeling like you're going to start sensing that familiarity. And the reason you're going to be sensing it, ladies and gentlemen, is real simple. It's due to the fact that you're going to start realizing that you just watched the same story that you just saw before in the movie you just saw previously, either the day before or even moments before you watched a new one. And that's Hallmark's problem. Now look, I'm not signaling Hallmark out just for this, okay? I'm not signaling them out as the only ones that do this, okay? There are others that do this. But even though there are others that do this, like Lifetime and We and a few others, even the more established ones like HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, ABC Network, NBC, CBS. They're all guilty of doing this at some point. The one that's the most guilty out of it, unfortunately, is Hallmark. The one the one that is the most egregious when it comes to this is Hallmark. And why? Because every time I can have my door shut right here. I can have my door shut right here. Okay? And I could still hear from the living room my family listening, members of my family watching Hallmark, watching one of their different movies, especially during the holiday Christmas season, or during this time of year, the Valentine's season going into Easter season. I can hear them listening to watching that movie or watching a Pacific movie, and then after they're done, they'll continue watching Hallmark to see the new movie. And then as they're watching that movie, I could sit here in my room on my computer here, or be on my futon in the back, laying down or playing my PS4, whatever, and I can hear, especially as I'm walking about, I could hear that other new movie that I'm watching after the one they just did, and I could swear I'm listening to the same movie, or I'm hearing them watch the movie they just watched. And I'm like, this is stupid. This is stupid. And I say that with all due respect, but this is dumb. Hallmark needs to get their act together. Hallmark has the potential to be a great destination for movies based around certain parts of the year. Valentine's Day, Easter, summer movies, like 4th of July and all that. Holiday movies like, Thanksgiving movies and mostly Christmas movies. They have the potential to be a great destination. And from what they promote and others have said, they seem to have a successful formula when it comes to that, a successful track record. But, obviously it's not what it used to be. Because I'll be honest with you. I'll be completely honest with you. Hallmark used to have a successful track record where, yes, you would get your romantic story, but then you have a follow-up movie that was more comedic. Heck, they did a Hallmark original movie with freaking Whoopi Goldberg. And she's not really known that much for doing romantic films. You know what I'm saying? She's not really known that much for doing that. So to get Whoopi to do one of the movies, they had to do something outside the box. But now it seems that they're falling behind. They are falling behind on that, and it's not helping them. It is not helping them whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? It's not helping them. And they need to fix that. They need to fix that, and they need to fix it now. Because I guarantee you, I could be wrong about this, guys, but I guarantee you, someone's going to come out one of these days. Someone's going to come out from a major league level, a major network executive, producer, network position, whatever. They're going to walk in one day. They're going to notice the identical similarity to what's going with they're going to notice what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, guys, is this. What I fear is going to happen is an executive of some kind, cable executive, network executive, what have you, is going to walk in to the headquarters of the Hallmark channels. They're going to notice, if not hear about, the similarities, if not identical storytelling between the movies that get broadcast on Hallmark that are Hallmark originals. And that executive is going to say, no, we're not doing this anymore. We need to do something different. We need to be original with variety. Someone is going to walk in there and tell them they need to have variety, because let's say that executive wants to see what some of these new movies are about, and they sit back and they watch them. That executive, after watching maybe two or three of them, could be like, yeah, these were good, but they were basically the same story. You just switched up the actors, you switched up the locations, you just switched up the titles of the movies, and that's it. They will basically point out the same thing I'm pointing out, that these are the same stories, being done over and over again. I mean, for example, last month, my mom was watching several of the Christmas movies, one from the previous year and one that just debuted last year. And I could almost swear that the story was identical to the last one. Father and daughter, meet this female, the lead female who falls in love with the father, who the daughter takes a liking to. Same story. Only thing that has changed is the faces, the locations, and the titles. And Hallmark needs to fix that, and they need to fix it immediately. And again, I'm not saying that they're the only ones guilty of this. Everyone else is guilty of it. Everyone else that's done this. Every other cable channel or network that's put on these kind of programs, these kind of movies. In my hold on for a sec. My nose was just itching. I had a little bit of an itch. But anyway, any other network, and I'm just in the mic here. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. But like I said, any other network, if you will, any other network or channel has been guilty of doing this, but it seems Hallmark is the most guilty out of them all. And they need to fix that. They need to fix it immediately, because you know what? Sooner or later, like I said, one day it's not going to be people like me that come on to places like YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Anchor.fm, and other places calling them out about this. No, we're not. Other people, other people, what's going to happen, I'm trying to say, is you're going to have these big execs one of these days come in, maybe even new executives that will take charge, and they're going to notice it, and they're going to be like, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to go in that direction. We're not going to basically air the same story over and over again just because you switched out the title, you switched out the people that are acting in it, and you switched out the locations. No, we're going to do something completely different. And if that happens, then Hallmark's going to have no one to blame but themselves. So if I'm Hallmark, and I say this with all due respect, it's time to switch things up, and it's time to give variety. Okay. On to the next subject here, folks. On to the next subject. And that next subject is this. As a lot of you know, I've come on here on YouTube, and I have done web recommendations of several people you can find on places like DeviantArt. One of them is Mr. Internet Man, and the other is Minor Alterations. Both have collaborated with each other. Both have collabed with each other on several projects, more specifically the Demonica Story series, which you can find on DeviantArt. Well, I got to thinking, we know that nowadays, honestly, folks, this is the truth. We know nowadays Hollywood will take anything they can and make it into a movie, whether it's based on a comic book, a video game, what have you. So when I look at Mr. Internet Man's Demonica character, and then I read the Demonica Story series that Minor Alterations is doing, it got me thinking, What if Hollywood was to take a stab at that? What if they were to do something identical, if not similar, if not based around that? My question would be, who would they get to either voice the character if it was done in animation, CGI, 2D, a blend of both, hybrid of 2D, 3D, CGI, or if it was done in live action with, of course, the technology we have now, the CGI technology and everything. Who could they get to voice or from a on camera perspective portray these characters? Because we got to look at one thing. If Hollywood, if a studio, director, and what have you, was to take a chance on doing something similar to the Demonica series, who could they get to play the character that becomes Demonica, the Veronica character, or someone identical to her? And I thought to myself, well, that's a good question. Who could they get? And I thought to myself, well, they'd want to have a decent name attached to it. They want to have a decent name attached to it. And I think, honestly, if they were to get anybody, I think who they would get is the woman that's going to be opposite of Gail Gabato, or I can't pronounce the name. Gail Gabato, Gail Gabbett in Wonder Woman, as Wonder Woman. The girl that's going to be playing Cheetah, and that is Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig has been known to do some comedic roles, and I think, honestly, even though she's going to test the waters with a comedic / dramatic role in Wonder Woman 84, I think Kristen Wiig would make a terrific Veronica / Demonica. The reason I say that is because I definitely could see her having fun with it. It definitely would call for someone in a more comedic sense. And I think she is a big enough name, I should say, that people would actually go and see this in theaters or tune in nowadays on a streaming service like Amazon or Netflix to watch it just because of her, and to see how much fun she could have portraying a character like a Veronica / Demonica, who, as Demonica, has powers to shapeshift into anyone or anything. And anything, I'm talking inanimate objects, vehicles, plants, or turn into puddles of goo, slime, if you will, stuff like that. Split herself in two, stuff like that. Have a certain one-on-one action with her clone, if you catch my drift. I think Kristen Wiig could really pull that off. The other one I think is Margaret Robbie, the one who's going to be coming out in the new Birds of Prey Harley Quinn movie. I think she could do it as well because she's shown she can have a comedic side as well. And I think she could definitely have a lot of fun with it. I mean, obviously she's having a lot of fun being Harley Quinn. So who's to say if she was given a role like this that she wouldn't have fun with that? As far as any other person that they can get to play a character, I think, honestly, Zoe Saladini, who's known as Gamora in the MCU, known as the voice as Captain Cirillo in the My Little Pony movie, and several other films she's been in. I think Zoe Saladini would actually make a good choice for Ruby Walker. I really do. I think she'd make a great Ruby, because Ruby is basically someone that is a serious character trying to take her job seriously, but she has this side of her that she doesn't let out, and it takes Demonica / Veronica to help her bring that side of herself out and introduce her to the wonders of what she's able to do and share it with her as well. And that was just my dog. She was waking up a little bit from her sleep. I gotta let her out before I leave too, so she doesn't have any accidents in the house. But anyway, getting back on topic here, and she's all right. Like I said, she just woke up from a nap. But anyway, like I said, I think Zoe Saladini could definitely play a good Ruby Walker, be that opposite of Veronica DeMonica, whether it's played by Kristen Rigg or Margaret Robbie. I definitely think she'd make a good Ruby Walker like character because, like I said, she's a character that Ruby that takes her job seriously. She meets up with Veronica slash Demonica, and Demonica slash Veronica brings out this side of her that she's kept hidden with the powers that she has by sharing it with her. And honestly, I think they would make a great on-screen pairing, especially as the movie progresses. If something like this was to be made, I think another person that could be brought in to kind of round it out. Honestly, I think you have to go with whoever doesn't get the Demonica Veronica role. I would say that whoever doesn't, get chosen to portray Demonica slash Veronica. Sorry about that, guys. Phone went off. Obviously, a wrong number because they don't rank twice. But anyway, what was I? Oh yeah, whoever doesn't get the role of Demonica slash Veronica, I think would make a good Rebecca slash Exotica, who is basically someone that has the same powers. So let's say, as I was trying to say, Margaret Robbie, if she doesn't get the role of Demonica slash Veronica, I think Margaret Robbie could make a good Exotica slash Veronica. Exotica slash Rebecca. The same with Kristen Wiig. If Kristen Wiig doesn't get it, and let's say someone like Margaret Robbie gets it, I think Kristen Wiig could make a good Rebecca slash Exotica because again, both characters, both Rebecca slash Exotica and Veronica slash Demonica have the same powers, the same abilities, and all that. And you could have a lot of fun with it because one of the new scenarios that Mr. Internet Man has put into his characters is that Exotica and Demonica can fuse together to create someone new. They can either create someone that they both are mentally in control of, in which, both can have their Exotica, Demonica faces kind of split down the middle and take over the face of the being they fused into. They have the ability to fuse into someone completely different that's more domineering. Like, let's say there's this one character called Angela that, as Mr. Internet Man puts it to one commentator or one commenter, is more vain and narcissistic and just selfish kind of deal. The kind of the complete opposite of what the girls are. Or you have kind of an equal mutual like fusion where you have a character that's basically a perfect blending of both, has a two-tone hair coloring of sky blue on one side and purple on the other, and the character is named Zia. Zaya. The character is named Zaya, and again, it's just the perfect blend of both. So again, either way, I think whoever, like I said, doesn't get the role of Demonica slash Veronica, if something like this was to be done, should get the role of Rebecca slash Exotica. Now, you might ask yourself, well, this is all cool and everything, Brian, but, what story would they have to go on? And that's a good question. What kind of story would they have to go on? I think, honestly, you'd have to go origin story a bit. You'd have to definitely talk about how, Veronica slash Demonica came into contact with this power, and you would have to kind of maybe dedicate maybe the first 30 minutes or so, depending on the length of the movie, to her learning about her new abilities, having fun with her new abilities. And then as you progress through the movie, you introduce us to the other characters. Like, Ruby could be put into the scenario by investigating all these mysterious happenings that are occurring at night. All these reports of people saying they're seeing this mischievous demon flying through the air and disappearing, and some people saying that when they would see her, she would suddenly turn into some kind of goop that would blend in with the wall or something like that. So that's how you can introduce Ruby. And then the other way you can introduce Exotica is you can have, you know, um, Demonica / Veronica flying through the night, or just deciding to stay home, and she watches on the news and she sees reports of what she would think at first is her, activity. But it's like, wait a minute, I'm not out. I've not been out tonight. What's going on here? I've not been out. And then she notices something that looks like her, but then maybe using a bit of her powers that she has, she kind of sees a little closer, gets a clearer look, and says, and kind of acknowledges, oh, wow, there's actually somebody else that has similar powers. I got to see who this is. And then that's how you bring in Exotica / Rebecca. So you just go from there. And from what I could tell, there's a part in the series that they kind of stopped at, where there's this group of people that know who Veronica / Demonica is, and potentially could know who Exotica / Rebecca is. And you bring them into the picture with whatever purpose they have and whatever connection they have to what's going on. And I guarantee you work it all out. You work out all these bits and pieces as well throughout. You do the origin, you connect, maybe months later to, Ruby Walker being brought in to investigate. And then at the same time, you bring in this new character, because maybe you do a moment where Veronica decides she just wants to stay in the night, and then she sees the report. So, but like I said, you put those things together, you bring it all, you introduce at the same time. I'm kind of like, just take your time with it. This new group that knows about what's going on, and you add in all the bits and pieces, and I guarantee you, if something like that was to occur, if something like this was to happen, Hollywood could have, maybe not a hit, but they could have an interesting movie on their hands. And depending on what studio it could be, whether it's Netflix, Warner Brothers, Universal, someone independently, they could have, like I said, an interesting movie on their hands. Because not only could they have a comedic movie, they could have a sci-fi like comedic movie that could have some weight to it as well. So, because of course you got to have one of those moments, those like down to earth dramatic moments, to where you have to find out, okay, why is Veronica allowing herself to become this demon, this mischievous demon elf, and the same with Rebecca, who would have the same abilities. And then of course you have to bring Ruby into that equation and kind of reveal why she doesn't let people see this side of her that, Rebecca, that not Rebecca, but Veronica / Demonica has brought out of her. So I think doing a movie like that based on a story like that, I believe is the best direction action to go in, if Hollywood wanted to do that, because we noticed that a lot of stories nowadays based around based on adapted ideas, or maybe even original ideas, and even though those original ideas for those movies might seem out there, have become huge successes in Hollywood. Even to the point that, yeah, they might get a nomination at an award show. So my opinion, though, is I think, honestly, they should, if they were to do something like that, if someone in Hollywood If a director, screenwriter, whatever, was to look on DeviantArt and they were to see the Demonica story series, they would see, the Demonica story series by Minor Dash Alterations, that is, and then they would see Mr. Internet Man's gallery of the Demonica character. You can't tell me that they may not be interested in trying to bring that to life onto the big screen, and maybe bringing in some perhaps A-plus, A-lister actresses into the fold to portray some of the characters that are spotlighted in the Demonica universe, if you will. So that's the third topic. The fourth and final topic we are going to talk about here. The fourth and final topic we're going to talk about here, ladies and gentlemen, is something that has to do with work. Now, I say this from experience because, of course, I work at a big retailer, which I have to go to work to for today. And I thank God that I'm working for them. I thank God that they gave me the opportunity almost 6 years ago. It's going to be 6 years next month on the 18th. But anyway, last year, well, not last year, but every year, not every year, what am I saying? It's like, what I'm trying to say is every day that myself or any of my co-workers, associates, co-associates go to work, of course, depending on the position we have to deal with customers. Well, here's the thing. We don't mind working with customers depending on how they are. We know that some customers will try to sneak out some items they didn't pay for, so we got to be careful about that, especially with weekends like this, and depending on the outcome of the conference championships, weekends to come. We know we got to be careful. We got to keep an eye out. But here's the thing. One of the things that really kind of bugs me a little bit is, and I say this with all due respect, okay? Because I know I'm not the only worker I know I'm not the only worker / associate at a retail store that, deals with this. I'm not the only one. I know there are some at Target, Best Buy, Kohl's, you name it, that deal with this as well. Safeways, Lucky's, Albertsons, Save Marts, like I said, they deal with this as well. And what that is basically the fact that when you're told to go to break, okay, when you're told, okay, you got to go to break, or you're told basically, and sorry for the pause there, I was just thinking about what I was going to say, or you're told, you got to go to lunch because you're going to get locked out, or you realize, okay, you're about to be off, so you need to turn off your light. Here's the thing. You would think when you turn off your light on your register, that would alert customers, okay, that person's closed. Nope, it doesn't. And I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again. It does not alert the customers. It doesn't. What you physically have to do is get a sign that says lane closed, put it at the very beginning of your lane, which is basically the I guess you could say the metal part. It's like you basically got to put it like, here's the lane, here's the metal part. You basically got to put the sign right on that metal part to let people know, oh, by the way, we're closed. Or you got to take the little plastic chain you have, little plastic chain you have, and that's my dog. She just woke up again from her sleep. But you got to, and she's fine. She's all right. But anyway, what I was saying is you sometimes even have to take that plastic chain you might have that even has a sign on there saying, oh, this lane's closed, and put it across between your register and another register that's still open, so that people will get the word, oh, or get the message of, oh, that lane's closed. Because honestly, it seems to me that when you turn off your light, usually that should be the signal that, oh, your lane's closed. And there are some people that have respect enough to say, or have respect or knowledge enough to realize, oh, that person's closed, they're going home. But to others, when you do that, from what I've seen, that's not a signal to them that you're closed. No. Like I said, there are customers that respect and realize, oh, when you turn off a light, you're closed. But there are others that will look at that light being shut off, and to them, it's either a signal of, oh, that person's open, or they don't see it, and all they see is other people. And the reason that happens is because that's how they deal with them. That's basically how they deal with other stores. Yeah. There are other stores out there, sometimes small mom and pop retail stores, sometimes small mom and pop grocery stores, or medium-sized retail, medium-sized grocery, that they don't use lights. They just use signs. And people are so used to that when they go to a major retail store like a Target, a Walmart, a Kohl's, or a Best Buy, and someone turns off the light acknowledging, oh, on the lane, acknowledging, okay, I'm closing up, they don't see that. They just see people. That's what they're used to. And they need to realize that basically that's not the case. That not all stores are the same. They need to realize that. They need to realize not all stores are the same. Stores are different. Major retail stores like a Walmart, a Target, a Kohl's, and a Best Buy are completely different. They have lanes that have lights on them that acknowledge that when those lights are on, it acknowledges, oh, he's open or she's open. But when the shut off, should send a signal saying, or a message saying, oh, that person's closed. It doesn't. I mean, again, like I said earlier, there are people that do respect, okay, that person's closed. They realize that when the light's off, they're closed. But there are other people that don't, because they're not used to that. They're more used to what they do at other smaller to medium-sized retail or grocery stores around, the vicinity. So my suggestion for anybody out there listening and watching is you need to get people that are not used to that. You need to get them used to it. You need to get them to realize, okay, we need to fix this. We need to help each other, if you will, when it comes to shopping at these bigger retail stores and grocery marts. You have to help them realize, okay, folks, we know you're used to just looking at people, but at these places, up there, these lights, they're the ones that indicate whether the lane is open or not. Because if the light's off, it's not open. If it's on, it's open. We need to help each other. We need to help each other in that manner, because not a lot of people are going to realize that. I mean, I know this sounds confusing a little bit, and I do apologize. But the point I'm getting at is, again, not a lot of people acknowledge, what they see. They don't acknowledge, what's in front of them, because they're used to doing things one way, and that's it. A good example, a good example is the fact that one of the things we're asked to do is promote self-checkout. We're told if we see long lines, to gather people to come to self-checkout. And even though I could be at the top of my, and even though I can yell at the top of my lungs, I should say, when I'm put, in charge of the belts, if you will, or put in charge of self-checkouts, bullpen as we call it, I could yell at the top of my lungs saying, "Hey, self-checkout belts on grocery signs are open if you don't need cigarettes or alcohol," which I'm probably going to do today anyway, possibly. I could yell that, and the people will come, but not everybody. Only like a few people. And why? Because they don't trust the belts. They don't trust them. They don't trust them in what they can do, or they don't trust themselves. And even if they do want to take a chance, what do? They ask us to help them. Or what we have to do, because maybe we notice they might be reluctant, and this is the right thing to do if you work for a retailer that has self checkout, you have to go up to them and say, "You want to try self checkout?" And even though they might be reluctant, you got to be like, "Hey, you don't know how to use it, I can help you." But guess what? Sometimes even if you tell them that, they'll still refuse. And sometimes they'll refuse out of courtesy. They'll be like, "Thank you for offering, but I'd rather do it at the regular checkout." And that there is what causes a lot of conflict between customers because, you know, they're not realizing that we're trying to help make their shopping experience, no matter what, retailer you work for, we're trying to make the shopping experience a lot easier. Heck, we're now at the point to where basically a lot of people, we basically have what's known as a checkout with me deal, to where we have something like a portable scanner that could scan all the items they have, and then on the other side they insert their card, type in the number, and then the receipt prints out on this side. So it's gotten to that point, and even though people have accepted that and actually appreciate that being a new option, not all of them go with it because they don't trust it. Their belief is, "Oh, well, these machines are going to put you out of business. They're going to put you out of jobs because you rely too much on them." And it's like, what? And we try to explain to them, that's not the case. These machines actually provide more jobs than you think. So, but yeah, they have to, in my opinion, overall, people have to understand that just because you do things one way or used to doing things one way at another store doesn't mean the same thing applies when you go to a Target or Walmart or Best Buy or Kohl's or wherever, because things are different and you have to adjust to that. So hopefully there'll be those out there that will help those people that are used to doing it one way realize, hey, you're going into Target, you're going into Walmart, things are a little bit different here, especially when you get ready to check out. So hopefully that happens in the future. But anyway, guys, that's going to pretty much do it for this live TGIF Topics on My Mind video, which is also going to be streamed, also be listened to as an audio as part of the Unscripted, Uncut, and On the Fly podcast on Podbean, Anchor.fm, and Spotify. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate your support and everything here. It's really appreciated. And again, this is going to also be seen or listened to on Podbean, Anchor.fm, and Spotify. Check those places out for the audio version of this broadcast. So thank you all guys for being here, if you were here, and thank you all for listening afterwards. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below of the things I brought up. And if you have a comment section available to you on Podbean and Anchor.fm and Spotify, let me know what you guys think down below there at those comment sections, as well as let me know what you guys think in the comment section below here on my YouTube channel. So again, guys, thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. And I am out. Have a good rest of the day. I will be back, though, with some videos. Trust me. But until then, have a good rest of the day.